Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here at Bitcoin. Hopefully check out a little bit of the price action here. It's been a little interesting in the last couple of hours, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that and much more. If you're new to the channel, of course, not a financial advisor, love teaching people to trade. I do hope you can learn something here today if you want to become a better trader once more. CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. Feel free to check that out. I have a trading academy, community, and signal group where I basically teach you how to trade. The way that I trade is a little more conservative and a little more consistent, but also, of course, signals that we kind of share and kind of learn and grow together. So it's a really awesome experience. So check that out in your own time. I do also offer third world country and military discounts. So thank you so much for your service if you had served. That being said, taking a look here, of course, at Bitcoin. Simply put, we're kind of drawing dead right at 24,000. It's trying really hard to break, but also having some difficulty. Okay, so first of all, we've got this doji candle that closed the day before yesterday, and of course a gravestone yesterday. Those are both signs that the price wants to come down. Again, no guarantees, of course. Cryptocurrency has a tendency of changing things, but when you see a candlestick such as this here, for example, this is the opposite of a gravestone, basically telling us that the price action is likely going to turn around. We can see that essentially right here as well, where the price action could and likely should come down. Again, I think Bitcoin's still in good shape. If it comes down, probably not a tremendously low price point. I would say 23,300 or maybe even 23,200. Those are ranges right there that we could probably see the price action consolidate, retrace for the next leg up. It would just make sense that we're gonna do that before we continue higher. So just be prepared for, I wouldn't say necessarily a massive sell-off, but we could very well see a red day soon. I feel as if we're going to see that on Monday, tomorrow. So careful holding a position going into the trading week. As per usual, I just kind of recommend if you're going to take a long position, be very, very careful. Use very small position sizes and stops that are just, they're tighter stops, I guess you could say. So again, just some things to think about, but regardless, let's look at this. Let's look at the data and see what's going on here. In fact, why don't we go ahead and start with the monthly, since we're pretty much almost at a monthly candlestick close. So we can see here on the monthly, we do of course have that resistance at 24,000, but we are above a key level resistance from before, now trending at 21,800. That is the simple moving average 50, the 50-day SMA. So this is positive in a grand scheme of things, because being back up above that is very, very helpful, because in the past Bitcoin has had a tendency of basically bouncing off of that level. So with us being below that last month and potentially back above that this month, it's a very, very good sign. Okay, so that's a positive sign there, kind of reiterating the fact that we shouldn't see a price point much lower in the immediate future. Not saying it won't go lower than it's at right now, just in general, I think sub 20,000 seems unrealistic at this point. Just based on the key level supports that we have, that was basically, there's a lot of positive stuff that we can see here. The thing that's disadvantageous to an extent is that we're under 50 on the RSI. We will be at that level for some time until we get a couple more candlestick closures, but hypothetically another green month after this, which it's again common practice for Bitcoin to have 2 green months following 3 red candles, then we could very well see a price point closer to 28,000. I think next month that is a possibility. So again, that's kind of where we're at there. So all the more reason to add your position if you have your dollar cost averaging, but careful with a long position at this immediate time frame, just based on the fact that there could be a sell-off tomorrow before the next leg up. That's kind of just what it feels like it's shaping up to do. Either way, take a look at the weekly. Similar story here as well. We're up over the 200-day set moving average, now trading at 22,800. So hypothetically, today closes at or around the same level that we're at right now. We're going to have a closure above that level, and that's a very positive sign. Okay, so really, really good stuff there in that sense. We could also say the same about the RSI. We're back up over 30 on the RSI, effectively trending towards 50. While it's not fantastic, it is a potential for momentum shift, right? We see this MACD convergence, essentially telling us that on the weekly time frame, the bears are losing control. The bulls are soon to take control, so I do feel as if we're going to have a nice, good green month next month. So I think we're going to bridge that gap between 24 and 28,000. I think that's a likelihood. But once again, we got to recognize the fact that the 20-day set moving average on the weekly is working its way down to about right around 30,000. So obviously we're a little ways away from that, but that could be a point of contention eventually, which coincidentally 30,000 is a resistance level. Okay, so again, right at that point we could see some resistance, but between 24 and 28 there's not a lot of volume. Literally, there was a free fall right at that point, if you recall, back in early June, and we're slowly trying to recover. So again, that's kind of where we're at there for the monthly and the weekly. So all in all, I would say mostly positive. We're above key level resistances, therefore becoming supports, and hypothetically, we shouldn't see the price action come much lower than it is right now. Again, I think 20,000 retest possible, probably more likely range of 21,600 or higher. That would give us higher lows still consistently, and that would be a very positive sign. But all in all, we're looking pretty good here in the general sense for Bitcoin. And on the daily, of course, we've got the price action right between 50 and 70 on the RSI. That's fantastic. That's exactly where we want it to be. And of course, the MACD is still converging, but it does look like it's losing a little bit of momentum. So again, we could see a slight pullback soon. But all in all, mostly good stuff here as well. Nothing significantly disadvantageous. We look at the 4 hour, we could also see as well here, all the price action minus the current 20-day simple moving average, we're still above all of those. And bear in mind, this can potentially work as a support level, but it can also work as a resistance. And it does look like it's trending closer to becoming a resistance, and the price action could come down and get rejected off that. So again, it's not guaranteed, but I don't feel very confident at this point in that regard. But again, you consistently retest a level, you're gonna eventually break through it. So I mean, as we can see in this last hour candle, we'll actually look at that as well. There was a really hard push up past 24,000, and it got rejected hard, but it also stayed above 23,300. So again, there's this nice little support channel that we're in between 23,300 and 24,000. So I do feel like we might see the price action continue a little bit longer throughout the weekend, and then likely on Monday, personally, it just kind of feels like it's going to be a take profit day. I'm having that feeling we're going to see a red day. Again, the only thing that could change that, of course, is the traditional markets. The traditional market opens up with the gap up again, like we saw earlier in the week. Then we'll see some green Monday, right? There's no doubt about that. Dollar index goes down, and NASDAQ and S&P go up. Bitcoin will follow suit. Okay, so again, there's that potential as well. So taking a look, of course, at the RSI on the 4 hour, we're still trending right between 50 and 70. So again, very comfortable, not over or underextended. I don't love it when the price is kind of just hanging out in between, because you truly never know which direction it wants to head. I'd much rather it be really overextended at 70 so we can take a short to the downside, or inverse, of course, as well, bouncing off 50. With us kind of traveling in that little 60 range on the RSI, kind of just tells us that, hey, it could go either way. And honestly, with this recent candlestick, you'll take a look. We'll look at the 1 hour candlestick. It's pretty obnoxious. It jumped up and down significantly and closed almost the exact same point. So just a lot of manipulation occurring, which is unfortunate, but par for the course. We do have a MACD divergence here as well, though, that we do need to recognize that. That is telling us that the price action is coming down. While it's slightly bending here, it's really no confirmation that it's losing momentum just yet. So I think we should kind of take this with a grain of salt and just understand that the 4 hour time frame is giving us a lot of neutral representations of where the price action wants to go. So, and this is really common for a weekend. So just keep that in mind. We don't truly know which direction it's going to continue to head. It does feel like down is the more immediate potential direction, but again, there's no guarantees in that, because this price action is really funky lately, especially for this time of day. I think it was like 10 or 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we're seeing some really, really strange behavior. So I mean, we look at this volume spike here on the hourly. That is just nonsensical, right? Like, what the hell happened? We take a look at the smaller time frame. You can see on the 15, it shot up and shot down with a bearish engulfing candle. Price comes down. We see a significant amount of volume increase here where the price tried to shoot down, but it came back up. So this is more of a bullish sign here in that sense, whereas the price action will likely continue up to meet that resistance at 24,000. Again, hard to say specifically what will happen here, but in general, I would say this is slightly more bullish on the lower time frame than the larger time frames, just based on the way that it kind of responded to that price action. But it's really interesting how it just came up, got rejected, came down, got rejected, kind of averaged itself out right at 23,700, and now it's trying to progress higher to retest that level. So again, the more often you test a resistance level, the more likely it is to break, right? So we got to kind of anticipate that it may try to break 24,000, but we could also see the price action come up and get rejected hard and come back down. Again, don't really love this kind of price action. It's not really the most ideal or conducive to trade. That's why I do prefer traditional trading days, just based on the fact that there's a little more predictability, right? You can understand the general direction looking at the S&P futures, for example, or the pre-market hours. Different things that kind of help influence, but for right now, it's kind of almost a flip of a coin. It's kind of what I'm feeling here. Again, the macro looks pretty good. Macro looks bullish, The micro to midterm also looks slightly bullish, but that indecisiveness on the 4-hour is just not really appropriate for proper trading. Let's look at a couple last things here and kind of see where we're at. Obviously, TD sequential isn't going to tell us much because we get a lot of resets, but let's see where we're at in the cloud, because this is something that's equally as important to recognize. And this to me, like when I use the Ichimoku cloud, it's kind of like I wouldn't say the determining factor because I don't necessarily use it solely, but everything we looked at so far, if I have a lot of indecision, this would be like the decision maker for me, so to speak. In other words, it tells you a lot about where you're at in the overall sense of things. And with us traveling through the cloud and effectively being below the cloud now, that does reiterate the fact that 24,000 should and will likely continue to hold as a resistance level. Okay, so there's that little idea there. We also can see that the conversion line is below the baseline. All right. And that is essentially telling us that a short position would be viable, or at least more so likely, based on the simple fact that we are, that moving average, so to speak, is pushing, and we can tell that we are effectively in a position to possibly do that. The only thing that's kind of not giving us the green light is the fact that the lagging span is basically intersecting with the price action. It's kind of within, and until it's cleanly below, then that would be a case in point where you'd want to have maybe take a little more confidence in a long position, or sorry, short position. So again, here's what could happen. The price action continues sideways like this, goes for some time. We'll see the very similar circumstance happen with the lagging span, and at that point it would be free and clear of price action, and then that would be considered a good short signal. All right. So again, that's generally the concept there, but when we look at this price action here, to me, the most definitive thing, because I had one of my community members ask me, hey, we've got the conversion line, the baseline, everything looks good except for the cloud. And then my response to that was, well, in general, the best thing to use here on the cloud is the cloud itself. So the lagging span, conversion line, baseline, those are added benefits, whereas I think most of the weight comes, I would say maybe 50% of the total amount of weight is coming from these upper and lower leads, because these things really help us understand which side of the tracks we're on. So at this point, we've broken, so to speak, we've broken down into that, but on the same accord, it hasn't fully closed yet, so we don't want to just kind of jump right in. But this does appear to be a potential shorting opportunity just based on the simple fact that we're underneath the cloud and the conversion line is below the baseline. So again, we got kind of 2 out of 3 indications telling us that that could be a possibility. Again, with this most recent 1-hour candle that had just started 20 minutes ago, I'm not loving this candlestick here because it does tell us that we could continue to progress higher and break through that resistance. So again, I think a little bit of patience would be appropriate, and to make sure we wait for confirmation. And to me, confirmation would be at least 3 or 4 more hours sideways from here, not breaking through 24,000, and essentially confirming that we are on the other side of the cloud, effectively telling us that we could be losing that momentum. Okay. Again, a lot of little factors. So today, honestly, is kind of one of those, I don't like these kind of days, honestly. I prefer to be out of the market when stuff like this is happening. But, we're not fully in one direction or another, so I would just recommend, again, being as patient as possible if you can. And then, moving forward, we will figure something out likely tomorrow. I mean, we're going to have a pretty definitive direction, I feel, either later this evening and or tomorrow. So just be cautious and careful going into that. If you have an open position, maybe consider just closing it. We might even close our Ethereum position too, because we shorted ETH recently, and we're pretty much at break even right now, or just a little bit below. So we might just take some profits and call it. But regardless, those are the decisions you have to make sometimes. Sometimes it's best not to stay in the market and to effectively get out while you still can. So take profits if you have profits to be taken, because we do not know which direction this is going to head. Even though majority of the signs do point up, the more immediate short-term signs are pointing down. Again, a lot of different schools of thought there, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. All right, so I hope that made sense to you. Sorry I went in circles there for a moment. If you're new to the channel, again, be sure to consider joining. CryptoCache.tech is a site. Got over 200 active members right now. Amazing experience. Thank you so much to all my current community members for everything, of course, but just also allowing for me to be able to help you and get you where you need to go. It's really great feedback lately. Thank you. All right, well, have yourself a great rest of your day and a great rest of your weekend, what's left of it. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you.